So I was about to speak about computer simulation and so on, but my computer doesn't be very good. No, so thank you for inviting me. So I want to make a little break for your mind, because I will consider some very simple model here, much simpler than what you have discussed until there. But the point is to study the non-linear regime of structure formation, and then to investigate some non-trivial effect that has not been studied so well until then. So this is work in collaboration with many collaborators. So at the beginning, so I represent a very simple cosmological model that you already know, in fact, very basic one. And then I will move to the non-linear regime. So we need a cosmological simulation, and then I will present some results of the non-linear regime, starting from a very large scale where non-linear effects are in fact present, down to a very small scale, dark matter halo profile. On Monday there was a nice explanation about all the probes of the dark sector. Here I will speak about the property of dark energy. But mainly what I want to say that there are many probes, but it's usually either at the homogeneous level, like supernovae or stuff like this, or maybe it involves some early linear physics. But again, at the end, we want to probe angular distances. And when we deal with non-linear probes like baryon acoustic oscillation or cluster counts, so there are always many assumptions. Especially here, we assume that the position of the peaks of BO are unchanged during the evolution. So it's kind of linear assumption. And then for cluster counts, there are many assumptions, especially assuming that the mass function itself, or maybe the multiplicity function, more precisely, doesn't change with the dark energy model. So it's many assumptions. And finally, also for cluster profile, I think in the future it will be a nice probe, but usually many feet are involved there, and it's not very well used because for the moment it's not very robust. So what I want to say is that at the end, the main probe are usually at the homogeneous or linear level, or with a lot of simplifying assumptions. So there are, of course, many models that you know much better than me to explain the accelerated expansion of the universe. Many have been presented here for, let's say, for modified gravity. Here, what we want to do is just to understand to discriminate between this model using cosmic structure. So what is the imprint of dark energy on cosmic structure, and the reverse, how to probe dark energy with cosmic structure. So at the beginning, what we have done is to select some models. So of course, we took as a reference lambda CDM, but then we wanted to consider the most simple model that we think of, but that is not a parametrization. So we have chosen quintessence models with either Grath-Rapibels or Shudra model, and then in this case, the equation of state is bigger than -1. So it's just an example, but so we took this one, but we also took just this model, but this one was just to bracket lambda CDM for the equation of state, -1, and then we wanted negative, but for quintessence we cannot. So, but especially this model are more relevant. And then, of course, we calibrate all this model on the CMB and the supernovae. So the first consequence of this model compared to lambda CDM is that, of course, we have to modify the initial condition by modifying the COM code to generate initial condition. So there are some perturbation of the field, so of the quintessence, so it changes slightly the shape of the power spectrum. But then especially because we calibrate on CMB and supernovae, so it changes the amplitude of the power spectrum. So if you consider model with a larger equation of states, so then the amplitude, the sigma 8, is smaller. So now we have this model, and so we cannot distinguish them from homogeneous probe like this, classical probe. So we need other probe. So either to refine existing probes or find other probes that we will search in the non-linear regime. So for this we need a cosmological n-body simulation. So how does it work, cosmological n-body simulation? So essentially we consider a perturbed FLRW metric, but then we want to solve not the n-body problem at the beginning, we want to solve in fact the Boltzmann equation, the Vlasov-Poisson equation for the fluid of dark matter. And then of course, because dark matter is collisionless, so here this is zero here. But and then we use because we want to use that, we discretize the field, the dark matter field with particles. But then one particle is not one particle of dark matter, but it's a cloud of particles if you want. And then for these particles, this cloud of dark matter, so we solve the geodesic equation. And then, so this is the geodesic equation. And it turns out that if we neglect this term, so because this term has been shown to be very small, so then in fact we recover, it's just coincidence, but we recover Newtonian equation in an expanding universe. So basically, so now we have the equation, we have the initial condition, and so, well, we don't see very well here, but anyway, at the beginning it's very homogeneous, and then, of course, you have you form the first halo, and then the halo merge together to form larger and larger halo, and then you form here this is a large halo, so it's a galaxy cluster. So this is really the basic for the simulation. So now, what are the scale that we want to probe? So with simulation, so essentially we want to go from typically we want to probe the imprint of dark energy and cosmic structure from very large scale. So the largest one is the diameter of the observable universe. And then we want to have the most massive halo in the universe. And then we want to go to a smaller scale, but so at some point we want to stop. So essentially here we stop typically at the scale, the height scale of the Milky Way. I mean, because then it starts really to be in the physics of the interstellar medium, and it's very, very competitive. And then for here we stop essentially. If the halo are really too small, then the gas cannot fall, and they cannot even form stars, and so you cannot observe them easily. So we try to explore all this range. So for this we have 4 series of simulation. So well, this one they have hydrodynamics, but I won't focus on this one and this talk. But these 2 ensemble of simulation. So this one allows to explore a wide range of scale for 4 cosmological models for a wide range of scale. And this series of simulation was the goal was to target the very large box to have the largest halo on structure. So for the dark energy universe simulation series, so we have many simulations, but let's take one. And then here I show the dark matter density field on over the box, the projected one, and then for 3 cosmological models with different colors. So on very large scale, when the models are very similar, so we don't see the difference. This is why it's black and white. But then if we zoom in, well, so we can see that there are some difference. I mean, we see the different color, different position. So it means that there is an imprint, and even imprint of the cosmological model here. But even also it's essentially it's amplified by the nonlinear regime of structure formation. And for the full universe run, so the idea was to have a box large enough to encompass the observable universe. So then the horizon. So then the box is, but also have a resolution which is good enough to resolve a galaxy cluster. So at the end, this is a light cone. So we can have a light cone. So inside, this is the distribution in the simulation, and to make nice to make the link with the CMB. But inside, this is the distribution of matter within the simulation, and here we make a zoom, for instance. So this is a very, very large simulation with trillion NMR cells and half trillion particles for twin cosmology. And then we build the light cone. And then what is interesting is that you can have a nice sample of all the galaxy clusters within the horizon, and also all the thing that you measure is cosmic variance limited. So I mean, it's not your box size is not a limit. The limit is just the volume of the universe. So now what are the results? So we have all the simulation, the models, and so on. So now I want to show several imprints from large scale to smaller scale. So what about BAO? So the baryon acoustic oscillation. So essentially, well, you know that it's because you have wave in the primordial photon baryon plasma, and then they will give an imprint on the matter distribution. So essentially, if you compute the correlation function for galaxies or for matter, then you will have a bump at about 440 megaparsec in the lambda CDM at least. You will have a bump, and then because there is this bump, this can be used as a standard ruler, and then you can compute angular distance. So this is really the basic. So thanks to the very large box, then we can compute not the correlation function here, but the Fourier transform, so the matter power spectrum. And here you can see by eyes, because it's very well resolved, so you can see by eyes the oscillation here, which are the BAO. And then, so the error bar are not here given by the simulation box, but it's just given, well, the simulation box is similar to the size of the diameter of the observable universe. So then the error bar is essentially cosmic variance, measurement at cosmic variance limited. So now what is interesting is that we can study the nonlinear effect. So there are nonlinear effects, although we are on very large scale. We don't think there are so much nonlinear effect there, but in fact there are because of essentially of the coupling between the modes. So here you can see. For the BAO, then we subtract here continuum, and then here we obtain. We can see better the oscillation. And at z equal 100, the oscillations are like this, but then when the structure grows, there is a damping here, which is related, in fact, to the differential motion of pairs of galaxy or matter. This is only matter, so, of particles of dark matter. So because there are differential motion, because of the peculiar velocity. So at the beginning, you have a bump in the correlation function at 140 megaparsec. But then, because of differential motion, then this bump will diffuse away. It will diffuse slowly. So then, when you take the Fourier transform, at the end you have some damping here of the oscillation. But so this is important also because from observation, then you need some template. So usually, well, it depends, but usually the template are used, and then this template allows to then get the position, essentially the position of the peak. So then, if you don't know very well the shape, it's not. You can make error on the peak position and then on the cosmological inference. But so also, what is very interesting for the moment, I think it's not used so much, not used at all, is that maybe you can use this damping. So with BAO, you consider you should be able in principle to measure the growth rate with this damping, and then there is this. So then you can compare this nonlinear effect. You can compare in lambda for the various cosmological model, and then the damping. You can see damping is different, and the peak position also is different. So all of this could be. You can think that this is some noise. I mean, you should correct that to infer the cosmology, but also we also use as some new probe for cosmology. So on the same idea here. You can there is imprint of nonlinear imprint on the cosmological distance itself because of the lancing. So now if we consider a survey of galaxy and we want to measure angular distance, but the line doesn't go in straight line here. And then what we have done is to, because we have the light cone where we have back up all the potential and so on, then this is the observer, and then we just solve the geodesics equation. Usually people make many approximations. Here we solve the geodesics equation, and we go backward in time, and we stop at the source. And so here we consider some source that are at a given redshift. And then when you want to measure angular distance, you consider only a pair of photons and compute the distance between the photons. And one interesting question is where to stop here. It turns out to have an influence. So I mean, you cannot stop on a sphere. There's no sphere in the universe or whatever. Usually people will think they will need to stop perpendicular to the line of the propagation of the photon. But in fact, maybe there is no source there, so it depends. You have to stop where the source are. So in fact, the angular distance is not such a trivial thing to understand. So, so it depends on how you stop. And how you stop can bias the measurement. But essentially here, this is the angular distance on the zoom here. And you can see here the average for one cosmological model. If you take or if you don't take into account the depending, but this is for a particular example, but we need to apply specifically to a specific probe, but you can see that it could be slightly biased, but also there is a dispersion here, and the dispersion depends on the cosmological model, so there is fluctuation of the luminosity distance. So this is an interesting new probe, another probe, alternative probe of the cosmological model. And finally, yeah?
Can you explain again? I didn't get this where to stop.
No. So this is just here. So this was an example where we stop at the given redshift, but just
sure.
So just I mean, if you go here, if you consider a pair of photons here, then the question is, I mean, the photon come from galaxies, let's say. So if you consider a pair of photons, then you need to stop somewhere at a pair of photons. So but you in fact it's not you stop; it's just they are emitted from within the galaxy. So basically, you need to stop where the galaxies are. So if you stop on a sphere, then the angular distance you will recover exactly on average the angular distance from the FLRW model, the traditional one. But if you stop perpendicular to the propagation, then the light might arrive. It's not perpendicular to this, so you will have some small fluctuation. But then if you stop really on the source, you will have also a bias because the source may be not at all perpendicular to the propagation, but you cannot know that. So then you will have some bias. But the bias is still an open question we are studying. But then, of course, the fluctuation here that are due to the lensing means, of course, you have these fluctuations. Then to conclude very quickly, so then at the end we detect all the halo, and we compute essentially. So you have many halo on a wide range of mass, and then one of the things was that before people were thinking that the mass function, let's say at z equals 0, the halo mass function does not depend on. They assume that it doesn't depend on dark energy. I mean, if I give to somebody the matter density on the linear power spectrum, then they will say, okay, the mass function is this one. But so it's not true. In fact, it depends on the dark energy property, the equation of state. Whereas in the previous model, usually it was neglected. And in fact, the deviation here, I showed the relative deviation, they are directly related to the fact that you introduce a new scale in the problem. So the time scale of the moment of the acceleration of the expansion of the universe. So I mean, these deviations are really related to the dark energy model. And to finish, it's a bit long, you can have the same well, just you can measure the profiles on usually people are doing some so the profile itself, although it's a very small scale, it's also a probe of dark energy. But the point is that the method that is used now is not very good because people are doing some fitting but sometimes the halo are totally, you cannot fit them, so it's, then you should exclude some halo, and then, so at the end it's not very clean, so we introduce a new measurement, which is direct measure here of the mass, total mass divided by the mass at another overdensity, and then this also, this quantity, so the total mass divided by the mass at an inner radius, so this depends explicitly on the cosmology, and then you can compare to observation, constraint, but so it's the same result as before, but just it's much more robust. So yeah, it was long, so thank you.